All rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everybody to our April 9th, 2015 public session, Southampton Village Board of Trustees. Mayor Epley is out of town, so as a deputy mayor, I get to fill in for the boss tonight. So with that, on the first meeting of the month, we always award the Employee of the Month. And this month we have John Dusty Candula. And I'll read the letter that Gary Gillespie, the Superintendent of Public Works, wrote. I'm very pleased to hear that John Dusty Candula is once again the Southampton Village Employee of the Month. Dusty continues, as always, to be an employee that many could aspire to be. Not only is he a good truck driver and an equipment operator, but he is always willing to pitch in for whatever job is needed. During these hard winter months, Dusty has shifted from snowplow driver to mechanic and assisting the highway department whenever he was needed. After the winter season had ended, Dusty took it upon himself to begin power washing all of our highway equipment to prevent any leftover damage from built-up salt and sand. I wish I had more employees with a good-hearted nature that are happy to take on any job like he does. So someone who's personally seen him in action, these words are very true. He's been a very long-time employee for the Village of Southampton, and he served the public and the people of the Southampton Village very well. And he is a very good employee, good worker, and congratulations to him. Plaque, picture, and gift for Dusty. So thanks again, Dusty. Congratulations. Okay. And with that, we'll move into public comment. I'm going to start with people who signed up on the list first, and then go into anybody who wishes to speak after. First on the list, we have Rose Diaz.
I need 4 copies. That's 1 page. These are 4. Okay. Okay, this is my reason for coming in. So you see.
Rose, can you just state your name and address, please, for the public record, please?
Rose Diaz, 38 Elm Street, Southampton, New York. Do I stand here?
Yes, you have
Okay, I'll just try to be brief.
3 minutes to speak.
Talking to you about Nugent Street, 22 to 24 Nugent Street. I am the owner of the building, and I just wanted to bring to your attention a couple of things that will come in a minute. Diagonal parking, it's my understanding that that has been approved for that street, and I think it really would be a great idea because we have a lot of, need for parking for our customers and for the laundromat.
Rose, I don't know of any diagonal parking on Nugent Street that's been approved.
Oh, I
The
heard,
chief is here.
I thought Sammy said it was part of the master plan.
It had been discussed and looked at, but it hasn't been approved.
Okay, so I would like you guys to consider that, especially with more stores coming on, like Starbucks and White's Pharmacy. There's a lot. It would also help improve the flow of business traffic to my
I think
store.
one of the issues that we looked at on that particular street, and I don't know whether, it has to be state approved first of all.
Okay,
So when the parking was done on Hampton Road, that was done years before. I mean, everybody thought we did it for Citarella. It wasn't done for
Yeah.
Citarella. It had been applied for several years before that. Is that correct, Steve? And then it was finally approved. But one of the things on Nugent Street that we looked at is on your side of the street, there's so many driveways going in and out that it creates a problem there. And on the other side of the street, we have the bus stop down further, so it's you can't do it on both sides. So
Right.
it has to be on one side or the other. So we have looked into it, but I'm a little unsure as to whether or not it's going to work as well as it does on Hampton Road and the locations that we did on Hampton Road. But that doesn't mean that we can't take another look at it and
Okay.
move forward.
Thank you. And we really do need a crosswalk. There's a lot of children crossing for the laundromat, and so, I just want to mention that.
Isn't there one that
There's one
goes
over
by
by the
the
post
lot,
office.
by the, where the old post office was?
Yeah, in the corner there.
There is.
Yeah.
There is one there.
But I think a lot of it happens right by CVS. I'll just bring to your attention that you should look at, and then the other idea is tree pruning. And that's why I made the demonstration to you, and I listed like what each tree, there's basically like several very, very large trees that are not in good shape. And I did some research online, and I'm actually hiring a tree person to evaluate the tree right in front of my store. I'm not saying remove them, but I have given you reason to really consider the safety of these trees. Like for tree A, the top has fallen off, and actually I have a photo, tried to find it for this meeting, where a woman was parked with a baby carriage underneath it, and the top was hanging down. And if you can see, the top has fallen off on tree A. Tree B is hollow, and it actually has an evergreen growing out of it. So that definitely tells you there's peat moss inside there supporting the growth of an evergreen. Tree C has mold at the base, which is another sign of an unhealthy tree. And just so to confirm this, there is an unhealthy tree in front of the juice press, and that's all green. So it doesn't matter about the light, it has to do with the inside of the tree. Tree D is the one in front of my building where I do feel vulnerable because like my awnings alone were $4,000, and I do have tenants in the building. This has like 5 huge trees coming out of it, and what I did on example DE, I showed you something called shooters. This tree is full of shooters, but in particular, the limbs that hang over my building have shooters, and that means the tree is really, or that limb is dead, and it's just trying to propagate itself with shooters. So if nothing else, the 2 limbs, like kind of menacing my building, I really think should be removed from a safety point of view. And the reason I brought this stick in was a week ago when I went to my store, this was lying in the yard. So this is the size. Routinely, I pick them up along that street, and I really feel like the trees are disproportionate to all the other trees, and it's kind of like the butt of the village. And I included in E, another branch fell today. I just put it next to one of the trees. And then F, there's a wire hanging. So I just thought all those things could be brought to your attention. And finally, the portable toilet location for the July 4th parade is usually put on our street, right between like my store and Golden Pear. And we would like, that to be considered. Not
You want
really,
it there or you don't want it?
we don't want it there.
Don't.
Because as I say, I feel like we really need we need to get customers year-round. We're open year-round, Tutual Journal is, the laundromat is, and I just feel like this is a totally neglected section. And I hope that everyone will pay attention. I really called a
I think
lot.
the danger of this is important. To me, that's the most important part of it. And if
That's
it
right.
means pruning the trees to get them healthy again, that would be a great thing, if we could do that. If they're hollow and we know they're gonna come down, we have to seriously consider what we wanna do. The hard part for me on all of this is that I look at a promenade of trees on that particular street, and I love trees.
Yeah.
And I love large trees. And there are other areas such as Hampton Road that if you wanted to, you couldn't grow a large tree there. They don't seem to grow large because the buildings are shading them in a lot of ways from the sun. This, to me, is just unbelievable that we can have trees like that, but I don't want them to be dangerous, so
Yeah.
we'll have to
I
take a
think
look at that.
I think we have to think about the fact that when a limb falls, you don't know when it is going to fall. And people do get killed by that, and also babies in carriages,
And that can happen anywhere in the entire
Yeah,
village. I
but
can have
but
to
not
say
in
that.
trees that have like very thin limbs. You could get hit with a limb, but this thick you'd die. So
Well, Bill, The tree guys take a look at that.
Absolutely, yeah.
As this
Yeah.
time of year, when the season, when everything thaws, it's actually when they start going and revisiting
Yeah.
a lot of these trees after the hellacious season we've had in the winter, so.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to say that they have looked at them. In the last 3 years, I have mentioned and I have called them. So, like, right now, I was advised by my attorney to kind of put you guys on record because I am feeling very vulnerable.
We'll
You
look
know.
at them harder.
Okay, great, thank
Who
you.
gets the prize in front here?
Oh, I'll take it out.
Oh, God,
It'll be good firewood eventually.
don't fight over it.
Thank you, I appreciate your attention.
Thank you.
Did the tree guys tell you that the moss on the trees means that it's not healthy?
No, that's from my research.
Because I had a tree expert over it. I have a very unusual tree in my front yard, and it has moss all over it.
Yeah.
And he didn't say anything. I said, is that a problem? He said, no.
Oh, well, my
And that's
brother,
Bartlett, so I'm sort of like,
Yeah.
now I'm worried, I'm worried.
you could look, one of my brothers is an arborist who used to live out here, but, he's in Virginia now. But anyhow, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the props. Second person on, sign up is Jay. Oh, thank you, Jay. It's a good segue since you're next.
Oh, okay.
You did well with that, Jay. It could be a night job, you know?
You can always use a little extra cash.
Look for some new tree people, so there you go.
I'm Jay Deasing, a village resident and president of the Southampton Association. Just wanted to hand in a couple of photos and a little bit of information on parking. As you know, is something that I'm very concerned about, particularly in the R12 and a half and R20 districts, where it seems like every third of an acre has a new 5,500 square foot house that's going up. And we're not supposed to be parking on the streets. And I think that with the size of the houses and the configurations and the amenities on the property, you're going to see, for example, on this particular parcel, which is a 7-bedroom house, the second page shows you the parking area. And there's really not enough for 2 cars to park in that property. And in fact, when you drive up the driveway along the side of the house, you can't open the doors to your car. And this house just was sold and got a certificate of occupancy, and it was one in particular that we had been discussing with the board here, and we were sort of assured that a revised parking plan would be put together before the house was granted a C of O. But now, obviously, the owner of the house has a C of O. And so I think it's unlikely that we're going to ever get a change to the parking configuration. And so the only option that he's going to have is to park in the street. And that's Little Plains, which is going to start a trend of people who will think that you can park on Little Plains and then walk to the beach. And I think there's a real issue. You all have the power to set what happens with these parking plans. There are very specific rules in the code which state that there have to be enough parking spaces for one less than the number of bedrooms in the house, and that no parking space may be closer than 10 feet to the property line. So when you look at the parking configuration, you can see that even if you could fit 2 or 3 cars in that space, none of them are legal under our code. And so I'm just concerned that here we are after I've been speaking with the board for more than 2 years about this parking issue, and we're still approving these houses. It's getting worse, it's not getting better. And once you do this, you can't change anything. Actually, at the time of design, we probably could have had them push back the little 1-story section and have some parking in front of it. And it wouldn't have changed really the amenities on the parcel. But now the new owner has a C of O. There's nothing you can do. We're out of luck. And once you start opening the door to allowing people to park on the streets, I think it's going to cause really severe problems, and we're going to see that this summer because so many parcels have been redeveloped. And I think if we don't get control of this soon, you're really going to lose the entire village to parking on the street.
Well, there's
So-
so many bedrooms. How many?
There's 7 bedrooms on this particular
What would the
site, and they're
parking-
supposed to have 6 parking spaces.
Unless you spoke to the, excuse me, building department, because I didn't get through to them today. I looked up in last month's C of Os, and they were not on there. So if they did get a C of O, they would have to have gotten it very, very recently.
Well, the only thing is the house transferred, the closing occurred in February. So I don't know whether someone would pay $5.4 million for a house and not have a C of O. I mean, I know we got a lot of money out here, but
So did they say how many parking spaces they have here? Because I notice on the other side of the fence, there looks as if there's parking area. If you're looking at the back view, I don't know if that is for a car. I don't know the length, like here, see?
No, there was supposed to be parking
Supposed to be,
behind the
right?
fence.
And they put
Yeah,
brick-
but it looks like
Was
there is a little,
originally-
but it's probably not enough. If you look at the
I
picture.
don't know, Nancy.
yeah, and we also sat down with the planning commission,
Yeah, go-
and
yeah,
everybody universally agreed that stacked parking does not work. That if you put more than 2 cars on a straight line, that's the maximum you could conceivably put. Any space in front of that really is not parking space, number one, because people won't park there because they're going to block everybody else in. The second point about that space there is it's less than 10 feet from the property line. So even though it is a spot where a car could park, according to our code, it's not a parking space that's meeting the requirement of having 6 spaces on this parcel. Now, originally, the design showed the driveway coming all the way to the back, looping around, and then actually having a parking space on the far side of the pool house.
There was a garage back there.
There was a garage pool house, but for some reason, that was never completed. And now we have a situation where, I mean, literally, where are they going to park? I mean, if you go to the property, it's 240 Little Plains, and you park in the section that starts to go parallel to the house, you will block the driveway so someone can't go in straight. And so if someone goes in straight and parks along the side of the house, they probably have to come out of the back hatch of the car if they want to get out of it because it's so narrow. And you know this now is done. I don't know what this gentleman when he gets to his house with his 3 cars.
Is this parking here?
That's a small amount of parking, but a standard
Not big
car
enough for a car.
when it
Oh, it's
pulls
not?
in.
Yeah, it's not a full turnaround.
I mean, and we had talked, one of the suggestions at the time we had said is, you know, you've got to move the Belgian block further forward.
Right.
But again, you can see how close the hedge is. The hedge is the property line. So if you're supposed to be 10 feet from the property line before you have a parking space, I mean, we're over-engineering these lots, and I think there's going to be a huge price to pay down the road. And in fact, just, you know, this is sort of interesting. This is another house that I'm sure you're aware of on Meeting House Lane, where there was one of the little worker cottages. It's on Meeting House Lane. And it talks about a 6,000 square foot house. It is on a half acre, so it's a slightly larger parcel. 7 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, master suite, and an expansive lower level to fit all your summer guests. The development has been designed to maximize the property to its full potential. I mean, that's, you know, we've got to understand that's what people are doing these days. So I think we have to consider whether we should be reviewing the zoning and maybe things like your basement where you can put 2 bedrooms, or your 3rd floor where you can put a couple of bedrooms. 20 years ago, we didn't, you know, basements were damp and moldy and nobody had bedrooms down there. But if you're getting 7 bedrooms on a 1/3 of an acre, you've got to anticipate that you're probably going to have more than 1 or 2 cars.
What's the address for this house, Jay?
This is
On the
116 Meeting House Lane.
Now, we've had discussions that, I know you and I have, and as a group and individually. I mean, clearly, this is something, certainly as a board, speaking for myself, this type of slipping by has annoyed me personally, because we've discussed, how stacking is considered parking. And I know that we've assigned the plan commission to look at, this is the one loophole, if you will, that I'm gonna call it, personally refer to as how this has been able to slip through to maximize the use of these properties. And you've heard me get up here and say, it's gotta be one or the other. You can't have all this and a pool house and a pool, something's gotta give. And I think the trend, when I see what's happening in East Hampton Village, they're looking to, I think all the communities out here are in the same boat, where, as you said, there's just so much money, and they're trying to maximize. Not that there's anything insidious about that, but I don't particularly subscribe to that theory either, but that's just me. I think the trend of the municipalities out here, we are looking to find out how to, so going forward, this doesn't occur. And I know we've sat up here and we listed many examples around this area, Old Town Crossing, to name a few, that these seem to be, popping up more and more in these areas. And I know that's, again, what the mayor went to the planning commission and said, let's find a way to get something in, a little more teeth. You've heard this, talked about defining bedrooms using the stuff, the Board of Health, Suffolk County Board of Health, true definitions, and using that more of what we already have in existence. But, I'm just as puzzled by you as how these keep going forward. I think it's because everything's keep slipping through the crack with the volume, and it's about enforcing what we have in place. And I agree with you on that, because, like this one, which we've now looked at several meetings, and how that's allowed to be called a driveway, and I'm a proponent for parking in the front, and making accessible parking in the front of your house, if so be it. So, I look at these like you, and I
I mean, I'm just
well.
worried about the liability of the village, because, this summer, we are gonna have cars parked on both sides of the street in many of our neighborhoods. And when you try and weave through with, your construction truck or your ambulance or your fire truck, it's really only a matter of time. And the village is not ensuring that its own code is being adhered to. And I'm concerned that this isn't just about, it looks bad, I don't want to look out and see the cars. It truly is about safety, and I have witnessed people in our neighborhood being forced off the street, being forced into cars on their bikes, and it's really only a matter of time before the chips fall on the wrong side. And so I really feel that it's something that, from reading the code, every application requires a parking plan approved by the building inspector. And so I just think we all need to get on the same page in terms of, approving those building plans and making sure, because it is a little bit of its common sense. I mean, when you don't have to be an engineer to look at this and know that's not going to work. And if you drive around the village, especially on a weekend, you'll see every house where the parking configuration doesn't work. And it's almost always a stacked driveway, a big house. It's been cut off because of a pool, so you don't have any backyard parking. And then there's no ability to sort of turn around. There's only, one or a double driveway, or not even a double driveway.
And I know Mike Trustee Irving was discussing with John Foster and the building department about, again, catching these before they even get up to this panel, meaning ARB and the boards. at
Right.
large. And I think that's part of the issue, of trying to catch them before they even come up to the ARB level for improvement. So that's
Well, the
ongoing.
part that I
But,
don't understand is
Jay,
if,
you're so correct, because one of the problems in the village now that's developed over the last few years is nobody does their own lawns and hedges anymore, and the landscapers, to save a buck, are buying these huge covered, trailers to store everything in. and you get one of those covered trailers and one of their big trucks parked opposite 5 or 6 cars that are outside, a 7-bedroom house, it's an issue. But I just go back in my mind all the time and I go, why does somebody spend that kind of money? They obviously aren't driving, a small little Prius to buy a house with no parking. I wish a real estate person would tell me why somebody would do that.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed is that I would say that most of the offenders, or the ones that aren't going to work, I mean, I'm not trying to blemish anybody, but are houses that are tear downs being built for resale. Spec builders. When someone is building for themselves, they typically realize, I want to have room for my car. I think what happens is when you jam pack it with amenities, somebody says, gee, I'm getting a house that's got the equivalent of amenities of an $8 million house 1 block over, but I'm only paying 5.5. I'm getting a great deal. And they don't think about the fact that when they have their family out and there's 4 cars, that they're going to have to park on the street. Now, 240, I think, has got some locals across the street. Now we're going to probably have to put up no parking signs. You're going to see people are going to request, can we put up no parking signs? And then they're going to request, can we have people come and ticket cars? Because it's, and it is dangerous when you're backing out of that driveway and somebody's parked on the street. You can't see very well. Somebody's driving down. You'll have pedestrians, bicycle riders, people with carriages. I mean, heading down to Little Plains Beach.
No, you're right.
And
The safety
so
thing is the really
it really is a safety issue. So I mean, I know we talked with the commission about maybe encouraging people, even though it might not be part of or acceptable under current zoning, but give people some leeway if they're in a parking compromise situation to take out some of the front yard and put 2 spots in there so that at least you have 2 spots that are off the street. And then maybe a third that's up the driveway. But on this particular one, I mean, I don't even know that you can get more. I'm not even sure you can get more than 2 on that, and that's a 7-bedroom house.
No, the parking at that place is tough. If you got 2, I'd be surprised.
That's where that little building section on the right, if it had been pushed back, you could have had a little more space in there to put a 3rd or 4th car. So I just want to, really want to work with you all. Recognize what's done is done. But I think we really have to get on top of this because every single one of these houses now that's going through that is doing deficient parking plans, the water is already coming over the bathtub. We're already flooding the bathroom. Now the question is, is the floor going to fall out? Because we've allowed so much water to rot the village. And that's what I'm afraid of, is that this summer we're going to really have a rough time. So appreciate anything we can do and appreciate you listening tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Rich, could I just make one comment on this while Jay is here? I think what you're pointing out is the second biggest problem we have, this issue of parking and things getting approved that really don't fill the bill. But the number one problem that I think this village has is overbuilding on parcels, these ones that, near Tom Burke's house that was recently brought to our attention, and there are monster houses, and invariably they're built by spec builders who are just trying to, it's the Kardashian effect, build a house with a big fanny and and a real honker house, and it'll sell, and I think it's the village is getting destroyed by it, and I think Mark had sent a letter, when he gets back, when he sent the initial letter to the Planning Commission a good year or more ago, it was talking about comparing our code. I think the number one problem we have is our code itself is too damn liberal. And you can build, a 35-foot house in any size parcel in the village. I think that's got to stop. And you compare our zoning codes to all the town of Southampton, the town of East Hampton, the village of East Hampton, West Hampton, Quogue. We're running the brothel of the Hamptons here. And I really think it's time we did something, just do something reasonable and then live with it, But it's clearly a huge problem. Sadly, I think this darn FEMA pursuit of ours and the moratorium was treating a serious problem that needed to be studied, but it diverted our attention from the bigger problem. Some of the houses that are going up in this town are just astonishing. There's one, go see the one that I was thinking about. I went to see it again today, that Charlie Coulter's old house on the corner of Herrick and James Street. You've got, I beg you, go see this house. And this house is a conforming house, and honest to God, it's unbelievable that you could build this. Then the houses that are down on Moses Lane, and I don't know if our residents go to the bathroom more than anybody else in the country, but you've got 7 bedrooms and 7 baths. Another one's got, I think the other one had 8.5 baths, and it must have a bathroom in the living room and so on. But in any event, we just got to rein in what you can do, and then I think the next step would be to sit down with our appointed boards and tell them that they're not to be liberal with these codes. They've granted some. I think that's too easy going, and we have another problem that I'm not prepared to discuss tonight. That's a serious problem, and I know Mark's aware of it, and hopefully something will be done about it. But I think our code has just become the laughing stock, and we've got to do something about it. So you just can't build a pool and a pool house and a garage and a house with 7 bedrooms on 1/3 of an acre. Your damn code is out of line when you can even ask for such a thing, much less be granted it. Amen.
Thank you, Bill. Kardashian effect, is that an industry term? Nancy, you
I'm
familiar
going
with
to
that
leave
one in
that to
real
your own
estate?
imagination why
Industry term, in real
I brought
estate?
her up, or them up. Anyhow.
Well,
Next
it's,
one.
it's an interesting vision, Bill.
Yeah, it
That's all I
envisions,
can say.
clearly envisioned quite a bit with that. Susan Stevenson, sign up.
Hi, Susan Stevenson, 84 Toilsome. I brought some handouts also, which is very unusual for me. But just one more thing about overbuilding or making use of the code in ways that perhaps are not going to be beneficial for any of us in the future. At 48 Old Town Crossing, the original plan came in with 7 bedrooms, 2 of which were in the basement. And they have marked clearly on the plans, the first sheet. There's a bathroom with 2 sinks and also egress windows, which are required, I believe, for a bedroom. I don't know who, Michael might know better. I had questioned some of this before the meeting, and then I had emergency dental surgery and never made it to the meeting. So a new plan was put in before this actual plan went to the ARB. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think it should have gone to the ARB because it had some deficiencies. So what they did was they took the 2 bedrooms in the basement and called one the playroom and the other the gym. And I think this is a common practice because when summer comes, the gym and the playroom will have beds in them and there's no follow-up. And then you'll have so that the parking has been reduced because now you only have 5 bedrooms, not 7. And I think this happens over and over again. And I agree that people who would build the house and live here would perhaps not be doing this, but that developers have every right to build houses, but I feel that you must watch them much more closely. And I honestly think that's not like when the zoning gets changed. This is happening now. It's almost too late, if not too late. Is there any way to make the enforcement, at least of the parking, start like today, so that there would be some hope, and some of these monkey shines with the 2 sinks and a quote, what I would call a powder room if you have a playroom and a gym. Just, they've simply just switched the names, and that goes through. And that went on to the ARB, and then everybody's going to fight about it. To me, the applications that go through the building department need to be checked more thoroughly, and that would take a lot of the contentiousness that goes on, especially in the ARB, if we didn't already have some huge house that people are freaking out about because it's next to their house or behind it. And that is what people are feeling at this point, and I certainly don't blame them. So I hope you would consider looking into how this all goes and the enforcement of the code. Once if this is built, does anyone ever go back and say, wait? I mean, can you tell someone, take the bed out of the gym? I don't think so, I don't know. But it seems to be a bait and switch to me.
Actually, I think your idea, honestly, when I'm looking at this playroom and gym, I mean, it really has, it has everything set up that it could be bedrooms. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration from day one.
Right, for gross floor area,
yeah.
for instance. Well, I had made,
For parking, because we're talking about
right,
parking.
well, that was,
So if they
my
take out
question
2, they
was
need
about
less.
parking, and then they changed it. Because they don't have enough parking. This is
Right.
another,
So they changed it to playroom and gym. Well, that
because
can't be allowed.
there was a flag was raised, so then it gets switched before it ever gets into the next meeting. Although these plans are on file, and one from the 20th of January also, that show 7 bedrooms. So they didn't take out the old, I thought they might have removed them, but they really are in the file. For
They don't
everyone.
have enough parking space.
Yeah.
The 7 bedroom.
So they just made the bedrooms into something else. And I know that's happened in other places.
This particular house was really ridiculous because obviously you're gonna have bedrooms down below there at some point. The basement windows and stuff are done. But the flip side of it is, it's very difficult under law to accuse somebody of doing something before it's put in. And, he
But
drew it
it's-
up, he changed it.
He did.
Yes.
But if the gross floor area, when you had, in the basement, had the windows for egress, wouldn't you be willing then to step up and call that part of the
Well, that's
basement?
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because that
There's a
can be
way, other
converted
codes
very
do
easily.
this where they're not like winking and
No,
deciding
but
that,
with the
oh, maybe it's a
playroom-
bedroom.
Playrooms and stuff down there, you probably
I've had
want
playrooms,
windows.
I
Well, you
think.
should have windows
yeah.
of egress then.
So anyway, I just feel this is actually part of the problem. It's all the same problem. It just, and to me,
It's a big problem.
it's a huge problem, and and things are happening so fast here that I feel we're close to the point of no return.
You're 100% right, and
This is my neighborhood, so
one of the
don't
big
mess with it.
difficulties is that the builder has a tendency to change the plans as he's going along to fit the circumstances.
Right.
Case in point, I'll change the bedrooms, I'll get rid of them, and I'll put in a playroom. So it's a very difficult thing to enforce, and
Is there any way,
is there an answer for it?
no,
I don't know.
is there any way to, though,
I just want to make a point. Even if, let's say, this person who had this house built or is buying this house says, we are gonna use this as a gym and we are gonna use this as a playroom. And let's say they do use it as a gym and playroom. The fact of the matter is, somewhere down the line, they may say, you know what? I'm gonna convert one of those into a bedroom. And they can. And nobody will ever know.
right,
Or I'm going to convert the playroom and put a closet back in there because I have the room to put a closet there, and that's what it originally had. So really, if there's space there that could be a bedroom, even though it doesn't look like a bedroom, doesn't act like a bedroom at the moment, it should be taken into consideration, I think, as well.
there is a closet on bedroom 7, or the gym.
Yeah, I know that, I see that. But there's
Okay,
also the space to put it back over here.
let's say the house is up, it's sold, it's occupied, and we just have our little gym and our little playroom downstairs. How do you come back, how does the village go about coming back a year and a half later to see if the gym is still a gym and the playroom is still a playroom?
Well, that's
I
a
don't know if
legal,
you
that's a
can.
legal,
see,
that's
that's
a
the
legal
real
thing that Michael
deficiency of the
talks about.
code,
You can't-
is that you shouldn't, that should be in the gross floor area. That would stop everything right there.
Yeah. Oh, so
Because you couldn't get
they'll tell you anything.
it'd be too big. So then they'd have to make the house smaller, and then you could park the cars, and everything would probably be a lot better. And I'm sure other municipalities must not go along with the kind of,
Well,
Like
that's a
this.
pretty common trick,
is it?
yeah.
But is it in East Hampton, do they have
Yeah,
this?
it's
Oh.
everywhere.
That's why I said, we're not the only ones battling this, unfortunately.
I know, I
I
just
mean,
feel
it
like it's,
becomes impacted on us more, as Jay has pointed out in the past. Our roads, this is an old community,
thank goodness.
and, yeah, and our roads are very narrow and small, and weren't designed for heavy trucks or big vehicles. So you get a house such as this with the extra bedrooms, and you get the parking outside, or on Little Plains Road is a little wider street, but not much. It becomes a hazard.
It's,
You can't get emergency vehicles through, or you try to back out of your driveway and you can't see left, you can't see right. I
well,
mean,
yeah.
these are really big issues, and
Right, I
we are
agree.
trying to address them. It's not an easy process to do it.
And also, I have to say to you, it happens in other communities as well. It's not just us. And when I was out on the West Coast, I look at all those things because I feel here's a different part of the country. I want to see how they're handling it. And they have little neighborhoods, and people end up pulling their cars out onto the road. They have the same vehicles that are doing the lawns and everything that we have here. They're parked on the street. People are like creeping around them, just like we have here. That's not to say that it's the right thing, but I'm saying it's happening all over the place. It's not just us. We're not the ones who are being, picked on, or, sky's the limit here, so let's go do it over there. It's just happening everywhere. So now we have to figure out a way to make it safe.
right, because
That's-
it is going to be Malibu.
Right.
It is.
Well, maybe not.
Hopefully not that.
I think
but-
it's getting close. Old Town Crossing is a Malibu to me.
But what's pretty funny is what you alluded to, and what's been discussed up here is I think it's almost. I think you
things.
said somebody said like, who would buy a house with all this stuff, or and I think that's part of the issue is that's what the market's bearing. I think
It
it was.
is.
I think at one point you
But
didn't see this because
would
somebody
you
thought
buy
who
it
would
if
do
you-
that.
If you were going to get a ticket if your
Well,
daughter came
and
for the
that's where-
weekend? I mean,
Well, that's
what's,
why now we
that's going to
address
be
it
a
that
problem. Where are they going to park? I mean, it's a great question.
No, it is, but this is why we're noticing more, I think, than before, because at one point the
Was never a
market.
problem. I
Because they weren't
agree.
building it that way. Then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, somebody built it and it sold, and they go, oh my God, somebody's actually gonna buy this. That's what I think is what's going
You
on
know
here,
what,
which
just
is
look
why
at
it slipped
values.
through.
You have to look at values throughout the village of Southampton. When you get closer to the ocean, they're seeing figures of 12 million, 14 million, 20 million,
20,
35
25,
million.
So
So
5
those are
million.
huge figures. So now all of our cute little, lovely little neighborhoods that have a third of an acre and a half an acre, you can get a really wonderful 5-bedroom, 7-bedroom, 8-bedroom house on a small lot that's less to take care of for 5 or 6 or 7 for half the price, but they're so happy. And that's why the market is booming, because they have an entry level that gives them everything that they want for a lot less money, and they have a lot less land to take care of. That's going on all over the country too, by the way, because a lot of the baby boomers do not want these 2 and 3 acre properties to take care of. They want smaller properties to take care of. So they're all downsizing now. They consider that downsizing, by the way. And so, it's an issue. And as I said, builders don't build buildings that people don't want. And that is exactly what's happening right now. All these builders are coming in. Years ago, you used to hire an architect, and you used to hire a builder, and you'd interview all of these, and you'd put up your dream house. Today, the dream house is put up for you, and you just buy it. It's a whole different world now. And do we like it? No, because all we hear is hammering all over this entire community, and it's changing. But I don't know what to say. I mean,
It's changing, but I feel like we have to protect some of it. Because what happens if all those people, if there's a huge downturn, if they all blow out of here, and there we are with, these giant I'm worried that when I flip the switch, finally, I've changed my air conditioning at my house, there won't be any electricity because
true.
because everyone else turned theirs on before me. I don't know. Anyway,
That's why they wanted to bring out the big lines. That was the whole point of the big lines coming out.
well, thank you. I just, please try to speed it up too.
Thanks, Susan. All right, that's everyone.
Can
All
I
right,
just make one quick comment?
Sure, come up quick.
On that, because I mean, I know your point is a good one, that, you know, people are buying them, so that must be what they want. But I do remember that Bob Gibbs came out here, and he did a retail survey on our buildings in the village center. And he made a very good point that said, you know, you can demand what you want to demand. People want to be here. And I really believe that if we say to people in a third of an acre, you can go up 29 feet. You can still get 2.5 stories in 29 feet.
I agree with the height on the smaller lots, by the way, and I think we're going to move quickly on that and get that done, because you don't have to have a narrow lot with a huge 35-foot house on it. It shouldn't be
Right.
there.
Crazy.
And I think if you say to people, you know what, you can have a garage or a pool house, or you can do one structure that's a combo. You can have a garage on one side and the pool house on the other. I mean, these houses on a third of an acre each are slated to have both a detached garage and a separate pool house. Plus, you've got the main house that's 5,500 square feet.
I think you're going to see it start trending that way.
Are they going to really not buy this house because you take away 400 square feet? Or because you force them, quite frankly, to put an extra parking spot or two, which in the end, they're going to actually
They'll be happy with it.
that
Right.
we did. Because you see, everybody who builds a house for themselves,
Right,
they don't skimp on the parking,
right,
because you don't want to leave your car out in the street.
right.
Because presumably you're going to put it in front of your house.
And I know some of the older lots that have no choice but to stack, and it's a problem. I mean, because they just don't have the width to the property, and they have at least 3 bedrooms, so they have to have at least 2 cars parked there. And it's constantly, let me out, I'm gonna, let me in. It's a real problem, but they don't have a choice. So if there's a choice, they should make arrangements for parking.
Well, I think you're all on the right track. If we could do it really as quickly as possible, because with 383 building permits active in the village right now, I just think that the magnitude of this problem, I mean, this is a tsunami that we may not realize has already gotten to the shore.
And that doesn't count the gyms, right?
Or the playrooms.
Thank you. Or the bathrooms in the living rooms. Those are all the people that signed up. Anybody else like to come up and speak? Okay. Close public comment. Go to board presentations, which we have none. Move into public hearings. The first one is extending the building moratorium, local law number 4.
Motion open here?
So moved.
Second.
Favor?
The board met, the mayor and all the board members met. As you know, the moratorium that's been in place, the 6-month moratorium, has been a good exchange of ideas and comments by the public, professionals, designers, builders, board members, and we've gathered a lot of information to get forward to our planning commission. However, planning commission still needs a little more time to formulate some concrete plans for us to go forward. So the board got together and discussed extending the moratorium for this purpose, to basically get some data together and digest it for the planning commission, and look into some more facts and figures that we're looking for from FEMA interpretations and so forth. So the discussion came of how much we wanted to.
This replaces what's in
Oh,
there.
I convertedly grabbed the wrong.
Okay. So the board got together and discussed exactly how long we thought we should extend it. We didn't want to go too short.
Did I have it? Got the local law?
Different one? Didn't want to go too short and then be shorthanded and have to revisit it again or ask for more time. And we don't want to go too long out, making it in totality a very long period of time. So we got together and we discussed that 4-month extension we thought was a good amount of time to extend this to, again, get the planning commission and the other people on board to formulate a good plan and some changes that we can present to the public.
We're also fairly close, so we needed the extra time.
Okay. In fact, yes, we're close anyways to getting it done. And again, we don't want to shortchange ourselves. and we don't want to, again, go out too long where it looked like we're trying to extend it for no other reason. So, and of course, we also did approach the Suffolk County Planning Commission and to get their feedback on it, like we did the first time out for the moratorium. And they pretty much, I think, the phrase in their letter was it's up to local determination, meaning they didn't have an issue with it either way, but they were leaving it up for us to determine whether we wanted to extend the moratorium or not. So we did get the seal of approval or okay from them, like we did the second time around, which leads us to go ahead with this. You want to add anything on it, Rick?
No, it's open for public comment.
Okay. So with that, I will open the public hearing up to public comment, if anybody has any comments about this. Okay, please come up, state your name.
Hi, how are you? My name is Deborah Choron. I'm an attorney with Jordan and Leverrier PC. My client, Lisa Crawford, wishes that she could be here tonight to speak regarding this local law. She cannot, so instead I'm going to read a letter into the record on her behalf. So it starts. Dear Mayor Epley and trustee members, my father, John Sullivan, is in the hospital after having a stroke and unfortunately is unable to be here himself to address this board. As such, I am submitting these comments on his behalf as well as my own. I have asked my attorneys to read this letter into the record because I cannot be there myself as I am taking care of my dad. First, I would like to commend the board for extending the moratorium and for taking the time to more fully review the input from its consultants and agencies concerning the construction of homes in FEMA flood zones. Frankly, I was surprised to hear about the board's action in this regard, since the board has virtually approved every application for an exemption from the moratorium, calling into question the board's true motivation for enacting the moratorium in the first place. One such exemption was granted to the owner of 320 Murray Place, Southampton, New York. Since the board's approval of this application, the applicant has demolished the existing home and regraded the property, which is currently the subject of a legal challenge. In addition, the applicant's agents and builders have made a mess of Murray Place. The trucks have created holes in the road and damaged trees and bushes without any regard for the beauty and character of Murray Place. And why shouldn't the applicant have such disregard for the environment and the laws that govern its construction, since the village trustees approved its application without any consideration of the laws which govern it? And if the board's approval of this construction, which should never have been approved in the first instance, wasn't enough, now I have learned that Mayor Epley, our village mayor, submitted an affidavit on behalf of Mr. Jacobson in support of Mr. Jacobson's opposition to our motion for an injunction. Strangely, Mayor Epley's affidavit was submitted on behalf of Mr. Jacobson rather than on behalf of the village. When did our mayor become the voice of one person or a few wealthy applicants? I was appalled when I read this affidavit, which misstates the law and facts, which also is an obvious attempt to rewrite a history which does not favor this board. It is quite obvious that the village trustees did not weigh the proper factors in approving the application for 320 Murray Place, as publicly conceded by Trustee Hattrick. Nevertheless, construction of this non-compliant 17,000 square foot home is underway, while the village still has not even finalized its review of the consultant's reports and made any final determination regarding consideration in FEMA flood zones. Contrary to Mayor Epley's contentions, our concerns regarding this construction are valid, and our concerns stem from the continued construction of a house which was permitted to be built in complete disregard of state and village laws which govern it. I am submitting this letter with hope that the village trustees will seriously consider the present and future impacts of its actions. Go visit 320 Murray Place and see the damage being done by this applicant and its agents, and think seriously about how such future damage can be avoided. Think about what the village can do to avoid litigation costs, such as following its local laws and adopting laws that are clear and enforceable and applicable to all residents, not just a select few. Thank you for your consideration of this letter. Sincerely, Lisa Crawford, 317 Murray Place. So I brought a copy to submit to this board. Thank you very much. And I do appreciate your time, and I heard the comments before, and I believe it's all kind of stemming from the same issues and the same concerns out of preserving Southampton and what they love about it. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for recognizing that. Would anybody else in the audience like to speak up? Public hearing? Okay, since there are no other people who would like to discuss local law number 4, then I'm going to move to close the public hearing.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second?
In favor?
Aye.
You're free to adopt it because we have a local determination from the Suffolk County Planning Commission. So assuming that you want to go ahead, okay, it would be a motion to enact the proposed local law entitled "A Local Law Extending the Period of the Moratorium Established by Local Law Number 4 of 2014." This proposed local law being enacted as local law number 2 of 2015.
Got a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second.
Poll vote, trustee Irving,
Aye.
trustee Ostrowski,
Aye.
trustee McCann,
Aye.
trustee Hatcher.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Second topic on public hearing for this evening is a 215-216 proposed budget. We have our first draft of the proposed budget in front of us, which I thank all departments for getting together and all the trustees for getting the data and working with their department heads to get these numbers in front of us. So this is now, first time being presented to the public for public discussion and public review to look at the numbers. And then before we go ahead and adopt the budget. Any comments you want to throw in,
Okay, well,
Steve,
we
about?
need a motion to open up public hearing
Oh,
first.
sorry. Make the motion to open up the public hearing on budget 215-216.
Second.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Okay, the budget is a $456,000 increase from the previous year, 1.71% increase, and a 1.58% increase in the rate from 18.43 per 100 to 18.73 per 100. As far as the tax cap is concerned, we have voted to go over the tax cap, however, we're not. The tax-based growth factor that was assigned by the state to the village is 1.99%, and the allowable growth factor, which is tied to inflation, is 1.68%, thereby allowing us to increase our entire levy 3.7%. Going to the revenue side, I just want to highlight some of the changes. Increased the ancillary revenue and utilities tax, $20,000. Building inspector fees, $60,000. Both of these categories were way over at that point for this year so far, but we still want to be conservative with that. On the second page, the federal aid has dropped by $541,000, and that was basically because the grants that we had into the budget last year are done with. On page 2, the corresponding expenditure on those grants is in trustee special projects. That's down $721,000. Okay, going to page 6, which is the central garage, the only highlighted item there is contractual expenses over by $70,000. We have more and more vehicles coming through that they need quite a bit of work doing. So hiring somebody at this point in time, we're looking at expanding the funding out for a lot more of the services. Page 7, radio operators' personal expenses went up to $99,000 primarily by adding an additional radio operator, which is required. On page 9, building inspectors' contractual services dropped by $30,000. That's recognizing half of the year that the rent that we were paying over on 71 Hill Street was really a 60,000 a year per savings, but we anticipate them being over earlier than actually occurred. And then we have an increase in the personal services for zoning, planning, ARB, and planning commission, increasing member services to $4,000 a year, and chairman $6,000 a year, that we recognize in this budget. On page 10, highway has dropped their equipment by $10,000, but increased contractual services by $210,000, primarily because of the amount of paving that needs to be required within the village after this winter that we've been having. Going over to page 15, just want to highlight that we're finally seeing a slated reduction in our contribution for state retirement of $53,000, police retirement $140,000. On the negative side, though, we're experiencing an increase in workmen's compensation by about $170,000. We are putting in extensive state safety and training programs, trying to limit the amount of claims that we're incurring to drive these premiums up. And on page 17, certiorari claims, we settled out quite a bit last year, so we're dropping that by $370,000 this year. And with respect to the debt service, while we did approve the ambulance bond, which will add about $300,000 a year in debt service, we did pay off 3 installment bonds this past year, so the net increase there is only $89,000.
That's pretty big. I mean, it's a nice number considering what we've, budgeted to improve and purchase and build on, and with all the things coming off. That's great.
And again, the department heads did a great job. We're constantly going back to the zero-based budgeting where they just, they start from scratch each year. And it definitely shows, and if you look through page by page, even like parks, items have actually gone down, supplies and such. They do a good job on it.
Like he said, one of the biggest, you mentioned, the things going forward, as anybody can now drive around and painfully see the roads everywhere, no matter where you go, not just inside the village. Season really took its toll, so we're gonna, we'll do the best we can. I know everybody's gonna, want their road done, and they're gonna, point out, but clearly there's gonna be a lot to address there alone. So it's good that we have numbers for that. Any comments from board members?
Well, I think the big thing is that the 2% cap, we were able to stay underneath that. And yet continue to provide the services that everybody is pretty much used to in the village.
No, you're right. I mean, when I see the number we've hit, we've kind of plateaued at a particular number, because the number really, our annual budget took a relatively good size hit a few years ago when the mandates really, after the market losses. And I think, that threw everybody off a little bit because the numbers went from here to there, but there was a reason for it. It was a quantifiable reason. It was the state mandates because of the state comptroller for pension and benefit contributions. Now the market has rebounded a little bit, and so some of those gains are being recouped. So that's our contributions have softened what we have to give to the state, and that's why, even though we've reached a certain budgetary number, it certainly is by looking at it, leveled off quite a bit.
We've
Combine
also
that,
reduced, some salaries there.
exactly. So you combine that with the fact of reduction in salaries and head count and supplies. Again, we've been very, very vigilant, everyone up here, about keeping this in line and certainly under the 2% cap. I think these numbers speak for themselves. And Steve, appreciate the work you've put into it, and Pat, and everybody else to make these numbers look as good as they do. So, anybody in the boardroom like to comment? Okay. This will be available, obviously, for
Copies are available in my office. This public hearing will be held open until the 21st
first.
for additional comment.
Okay.
And vote on the adoption.
Very good. Okay. It's done with the public hearings. Communications to the board, or none? The resolutions.
Resolution, item 1, resolved that the reading of the minutes of the special session of the 2015, and public session 2 of March 24th, 2015 be dispensed with, and those minutes be accepted as filed by the village administrator. And the actions taken at that meeting be and hereby are ratified and approved. Got the motion?
Make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 2, resolve of the claims for the warrant dated April 9th, 2015, totaling $175,885.24. Warrant 13, general fund at $19,000 and $1,275. Warrants 11 and 21, trust fund, and $13,760.59. Warrant 11, capital reserve fund. The payrolls for the period from March 20th to April 2nd, 2015 be ordered and approved. Got a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Page 1, Aldo Andrioli, March engineering fees, $3,250. Atlantic Salt, 122 tons of salt, $8,297.50. Black Gold Industries, 2 payments, $2275.20 for 19 tons of coal patch, and $2133 for 18 tons of coal patch. Page 3, Cash Productions, March Services, $1,370.70. Page 4, Commissioners of Taxation and Finance, first quarter MTA tax, $8,787.83. Cook Marin and Associates, insurance on new pumpers, $4,028. Page 5, Finance Manager, processing W-2s and 1099s for 2014, $1,296.40. Page 6, H2M Architects and Engineers, payment towards the sewer district study, $7,000. Pair of hardware flowing on to page 8, March supplies, $1,442.29. Honda of Riverhead, 2 generators for the fire department, $1,998. Human Resources, Inc., Community Block Grant, $5,953. Impromptu, 250 license plates for the fire department, $2,228.90. Jack Doney Company's vac truck nozzle, $2,775 for the highway department. Johnson Electrical Construction, traffic signal maintenance for March, $1,350. Page 9, Record Farm Lawn Equipment, tractor repair, $1,542.58. Lewis RCF Energy, heating oil, $1,342.86. Page 10, Malvisi Equipment, sweeper parts, $1,106.40. Messiano Consulting, grant writing services through March, $3,275. Golden Order Supply, totaling on page 11, March supplies for the garage, $2,120.72. Motorola Solutions, fire department pages, $7,515. Nassau Diagnostics, fire department physicals, $9,875. National Grid bill on page 12, $1,615.22. Page 13, Office of the State Controller, February fines, $9,222. Wine barrels printing, receipt books, Village Hall, $1,206.56. Pitney Bowes mail for police department, $1,529. Page 14, 2 payments for PSE&G, $2,401.70 and $3,417.72 for the buildings. Page 15, overhead building supply, Parks and Building Department, $4,810.61. Schneider Electric, IT USA, TV service contract, $4,257.90. Page 17, Michael Solomon, Judge Solomon, reverse for judge training, $1,876.19. Southampton Daycare, portion of the block grant, $5,953. Specialty Hearst ambulance repairs, $1,230.40. Student work consulting for the ARB through March 30th, $1,162.50. Suffolk County Vocational Education Extension Board, Fire Department manuals, $1,000. Testing Unlimited, aerial ladder testing for the Fire Department, $2,100. Anthony Tollhill for the Legal Aid Society, Action, $1,000. Bottom of the page, 18, going on to 19, Verizon telephone bill for March, $3,749.85. Bottom of the page, Verizon Wireless for March, $1,299.60. 21, Roy Wines, Fire Department, medical reimbursement, $1,000. Warrant 11, trust warrant, Southampton Cultural Center, reimbursement for risers out of their fund, $19,000. Paid for by grant. Angel Rascals on 21, deposit for 4th of July parade. Capital reserve warrant, 2 payments to High Tech Fire and Safety for current actors, $6,082.56 and $7,618.03. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
3, resolve the Board of Trustees hereby approves the attached schedule of budget transfers to the overages for the period March 25th through April 9th, 2015. Have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. Item 1, $6,000 to the grant writer, with $2,000 coming out auditor contractual and $4,000 out of trustee special projects. Item 2, $15,000 raw contractual from Trustees Special Projects. Item 3, 4350 into MTA tax, 15,000 into unallocated insurance, 19,350 coming from Trustees Special Projects. Item 4, 10,000 into building supplies, 2680 out of building seasonal, 7,320 out of buildings contractual. Next item, 15,000 police overtime from police holiday vacation pay. Next item is 20,000 into radio opera overtime from Trustees Special Projects. And next item, 2,000 traffic control contractual coming from street lighting supplies. Next item is 10,000 to fire contractual from fire equipment. Next item is 2,500 in safety inspection part-time from Trustees Special Projects. Last one is 4,000 into highway overtime, 1,500 into highway clothing, 20,000 into highway equipment with 9,500 from highway seasonal, and 16,000 from special projects. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 4, resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the hiring of Joseph Prokop, 175 Route 25A, East Setauket, New York, 11733, to represent the village at the village general election on Friday, June 19th, 2015, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the Levitas Center, Pond Lane, Southampton, at a rate of $200 per hour. Can I have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second?
Discussion. This is just obviously only on an as-needed basis. Sometimes we don't call them off, but
Right,
just
right.
on standby.
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 5 we have to pull because I had a conversation with our attorney, which is not applicable for this resolution. We'll go item 6, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the transfer of $50,000 from the Fire Reserve Equipment Account to Fire Reserve Facilities Account as requested by Chief Kent. Have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second? This is actually to do some repairs at the firehouse aprons and some drainage work.
Right, right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following payments from the capital reserve accounts, subject to permissive referendum, high-tech fire and gate safety gear. That should be $13,760.59 from the fire equipment reserve. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Six, seven.
That's all for resolutions.
Yep.
So we're gonna move into discussion items. Item number 1 is 1280 Meadow Lane, exemption from moratorium under local law number 4 of 2014. We have,
Okay, that's, it's only on, Steve put it on as a discussion item because it wouldn't have been applicable unless you extended the moratorium. So all you need to do with that is to pick a date for the public hearing,
The only date that's really.
which would have to be the
May 14th.
the regular meeting in May, because there's not enough time to advertise it for the meeting later this month.
okay,
Motion to schedule a public hearing on this exemption for May 14th.
Motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any discussion from board members? Questions?
So the date is May
14th. Okay. So moved. Public hearing on May 14th. Okay. That is the only discussion item for the evening. So we'll go next to comments from board members. Trustee Irving?
You know, Jay's really brought up an important issue on that parking, and I really, it's a hard item to resolve. And more you see in the village, I mean, I can't think of the number of, I think the last count when I spoke to the building department, there was 85% of the houses were spec houses that were being done in the village. I mean, that's a huge number. And to control them is a very difficult thing. You know, I mean, I have one right 2 doors down from me, and, you know, with this wet weather we've had this year, the run up onto the side of the road, and there's mud all over the place, and trash blows out of the lot, and they crank their music all day long, and there's bang, 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 and it's become a huge problem in this community. And Bill, you're so right. We need to make a valiant effort to address it. We need to limit the lot coverage, because even, this little house that's right next to me is a tiny little lot, no larger than mine, and they got a swimming pool going in, they got a little cabana thing in the back, and a garage, and an extension on the house, and it's becoming greater and greater of an issue, and the trouble is that you're going to destroy the flavor of the village. And when you destroy the flavor of the village, then it's going to be difficult to provide the services and the level of services that we do, because people just aren't going to want to come here. So we need, as a board on a whole, we really need to grasp it, because it's reached a point of being out of control, I think.
Trustee McGann?
I don't really have that much to say, other than still working on the application that the town has regarding the supermarket. So, still working on that.
I heard you garnered quite a support group the other day when you were there. It was nice to hear. Both people, from what I saw and what I heard, people supported you in the audience, and had some nice letters of support in the paper as well. So thank you for standing up there on behalf of the village and its residents, and speaking your heart mainly. That's what I think a lot of people recognize for that on behalf of us on the board. So thank you. I know it wasn't easy.
No. It's okay. You get up, you tell how you feel about it, and it's all the truth. So that's what you fight for. You fight for the people in the community, and you fight for what's right for them, and that's what you do. So.
Well, good job. Thank you. Bill?
Two things. One small thing, Steve, I don't know if you saw it or were even aware of it, but there was a cave-in of a water pipe down at the far southern end of Halsey Neck Lane, and it's something you gotta see, because we're gonna have to do some engineering work. It's potentially messy, yeah. He took me down and showed it to me. Some of you might just wanna, it's well marked by the water authority right now, so I don't think anybody's gonna, if you drove off the road, right at the edge of the road, there's a cliff into a big washout there and so on, so we're gonna have to do something
Where
about
on
that.
Halsey Neck is this
The
building?
far southern end, you can't miss it because it's so marked. It's in that vacant parcel in the far left-hand
Oh,
corner
the one that
of.
has all the reeds in it?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Bill, is that a water pipe? It looked like the drainage pipe.
Drainage pipe, yes,
Yeah,
I'm
the
sorry, it's a
drainage
drainage
pipe that
pipe
went under
that's
the road,
broken,
yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Didn't
Yeah.
we replace that recently?
Well, I
we
think
worked
they
on
did,
the pipe
they
down.
did
Did one
something
for
to,
between the two lakes in between, but this is something different.
Oh, okay.
yeah, this is a different,
Now, did that wash out, or was that just heavy traffic that?
I think it collapsed. I don't think the traffic probably had anything to do with it, but I'm just not in a position to tell you how it happened, but I can, it's a mess, and, but it's, and I think part of the worry is, A, you've got to repair it, but if you don't, soon part of the pavement is going to start probably collapsing into
It
this
looked like
too,
it,
and it's
yeah.
a double shame, because we repaved Halsey Neck here a year ago, and it's beautiful, but in any event, it's just something you should be aware of. The other thing that I'm more interested in, Rick, whereas
Whereas.
there's an interesting article that and it's been talked about in the press here for the last month or so, about the amount of money that the Community Preservation Fund has taken in. And I know years ago, and I don't know whether it was 5 or 6 years ago, but Oris Bliss did a study that at that time showed that the village of Southampton was contributing something like 28%, or that year had contributed 28% of their revenue and received back in return something like 5.5%, and so on. The problem, it truly has been a great program, and I think they've honestly saved a whole lot of land areas on the East End and in the Hamptons. But I'd love to, I don't know how we could, I'd love somewhere, Steve, to get an idea, just how much has the village contributed in the last couple of years? How much have we received back? Because I think we've reached a point where we're going to get very little back, and whatever we get back, we're going to probably say, holy Christmas, I can't believe we're spending, $5 million to save 100 feet of bayfront or something like that, and you can't help but wonder. So, Rick, my question to you, is the community preservation something that once it was approved, it goes on for all eternity? Can you get out of it? Suppose we want it out. Could we? And it's a curiosity, and I'm not saying I want out, but I frankly think what was once a great deal, for us at least, is a kind of a quizzical situation to be in.
I can't remember off the top of my head whether, this was a long time ago that it was enacted through a referendum. I don't remember
We
if
just
there's...
I
reenacted?
think it was just extended.
We just
And I
extended
seem to
it
remember it being extended within the last few
for
years.
another 10 years, I think,
But
wasn't
does the
it?
village have any ability, if everybody else, if I lived in Quogue and some of the lesser areas,
This is-
Bridgehampton and so
this
on,
is
I'd
not-
be for this, because we're saving them.
Although it's a matter of obvious concern to the village of Southampton that we get, that the Community Preservation Fund spend a fair share of
Yeah.
the monies on acquiring properties in the village. It's not something that the village itself as an agency is directly involved in. It's something that all the taxpayers of the town, including taxpayers within the village, are involved in.
I understand your
And,
concern, but
as you know, the 2% transfer tax is payable is payable in connection with the purchase of property. If it's property in the village that's being purchased and the 2% tax is being paid by the purchaser of the property, we loosely refer to that as money is contributed by the village, but it's not literally monies contributed by the village, it's monies
By village
contributed by
properties
purchasers
generating
of
it.
property in the village.
what
Would
I'd
it-
really like to see, could I just make a
Sure.
point? Because I understand what you're saying, but, it would almost be, if a large percentage of our sales, because we all know that, the real estate in the village has just gone through the roof, and, so we have $50 million sales, $22 million sales, all within the last couple of years, so I'm sure there's a lot of money that's gone into community preservation. But what would be a really great thing, since maybe we don't have a lot of areas to preserve in the village, which I think is your point,
Oh, yeah, there's very little left.
what I'd really like to be able to do is have a real say as to where our money goes, because I'll give you an example. I went to one of the meetings several years ago, and I was most impressed by it because Fred Thiel was there with, I can't remember everybody, but anyway, Fred Thiel was there, and one of the things that came up, it was when, what was his name in East Hampton, began with McGinty was in office in East Hampton. So McGinty got up, and McGinty was interested in purchasing, through community preservation, the bowling alley in East Hampton, because the bowling alley was going to go out of business, and that would be a terrible thing for East Hampton to lose their bowling alley. So I happened to be sitting next to a woman who was from the Riverhead area, and she was extremely upset, and she said, I am furious, and I cannot believe that he's looking to get community preservation for a bowling alley when I can't get enough money to protect precious estuaries that affect everyone. Because in Riverhead, their sales are a lot lower. They're 200, they're 300,000,
Oh, yeah.
not, 30 million. And she said, I'm trying to scrape together money to buy these precious estuaries, which actually affect all of you out further east, and I can't do it. And I really want the community preservation to give me some of their money from other townships. So I thought that's a really great idea, because really, it does protect us. But, she couldn't get her hands on it because over there, apparently what you brought in is what you use
You go
there.
out, yeah, right.
So, if we could in some ways have a say, because there are lots of areas that I think that we could invest in that may not affect us immediately here, but if it's affecting our waterways and it's affecting the cleanliness of all of it, it's something that we should be able to do. So,
Rick, in answer to my first question, are you saying you think we are committed, we're in, right?
At least not for 10 years anyway, since we just re-upped.
So there's no such, I'm not advocating getting out, but I just wanted to know.
I'll have
Can
to
you?
check it for you. I don't want to rely on my memory.
Okay. The other thing is, I think out of curiosity, it would be nice if there's some way of finding out,
Yeah,
Steve,
we have.
what our contributions into the fund have been in the last 5 years and what we've received in return. Be nice to know. And it'll be,
one of the things I remember when they were doing those meetings for the changing out of the poles along Scuttle Hole Road and all that area, and I think it was LIPA at the time, and people were going to the hearings because they didn't want these big poles going through all those neighborhoods, and they decided that, we would bury it and everybody pays a little on their bill every month for the scenic protection of all of that. But while they were at those meetings, they had these huge charts up showing how much preserved land there was. It was amazing to me. I couldn't believe how much preserved land, and most of it was
Kinda.
either through community preservation or also from the
Iconic.
county and the
Kind of land
town,
trust.
yeah, buying up acres and acres of farmland, which is wonderful in some ways and difficult in other ways. So, because it shoots everybody's value up, and then your local person who wants to live here can't afford to buy anything because it's too much money now. So, it's a problem.
end of speech.
Well said. Good points. Points that always get brought up, especially about the CPF, about where it's going, who puts in what. And I think what's interesting about that is, as you're pointing out, one point of it, Bill, where we feel shortchanged clearly because of the percentage, and from what I understand, we've had this discussion several times in the past, and there could be certainly a perceived inequity to it because we do, we contribute village-wise a decent amount. But that story about the Flanders person who, there's a real need there, is on the flip side of that too, saying, where can I get my portion of it? So, again, I think that raises several questions to the purpose and the value of CPF.
And people weren't getting it. I mean, we came out, and God rest his soul, but Buzz Schwank was there, and Buzz said to me, "Nancy, can you believe they want our money?" And I said, "I have to tell you, I agree with them." So, there are people who just didn't get how important that was.
They should have bought Route 58 40 years ago. But
Well, they didn't get it then, but they get it now, because obviously with all this issue we're having with water and sewage studies and on the county and town and village level, makes it,
And
people get it
since we're on
now.
the subject, and I'm going to bring this up too, one of the things that in the County Road 39 study that was brought out about Quadrant 2, which is the area west of the golf course and up to Sandy Hollow Road, and one of the things that the town put in that County Road 39 study was how much preserved land there is there. And I'm like, really, how much preserved land is there? Well, we have the golf courses, and we have the open space of the driving range, and we have the Elks Club, and so I'm saying, oh, well, why are you bringing that all up? Are you painting a picture that, we have all this open space here, so we could really have this shopping center? I don't understand the point behind it. But the driving range is in private ownership, the Elks is in private ownership. The town has it on its wish list to preserve it. So I do know that Mr. Hanson came to one of the meetings and said, where are we on this? Because it happened to be one of the meetings that I said, you want to preserve it, but is that a wish list, or do you have any of it nailed down, of which I did not get an answer? And I happen to know that at one point, community preservation was brought in to discuss whether or not they could purchase the back half of the driving range so that it would not get developed. But Mr. Hanson wants to continue to use it, so you cannot use Community Preservation Fund when it remains in private ownership. You can't use it. So that really, they couldn't do that. But Mr. Hanson came to that meeting, and Anna Thronholz said, "Oh, I'm so glad that you're here." And he said, "Well, where are we in all of this?" And she said, "Well, we're going to work on this. Don't worry about it. I'm sure we can work something out." I don't think to this day anything's been worked out. And I said, if you go ahead and change the zone to shopping center, you're going to shoot the value of those two properties through the roof, and you will never be able to buy them. And so that is of great concern. So, that.
Again, thanks you once again for your vigilant follow-up with all of this and diligence. Keep up on it. I just want to mention a couple things. I have a notice here from Long Island Railroad on April 16th, which is next Thursday, between the hours of 6 and 7 p.m. They will be doing work on David White's Lane, the grade crossing there. So David White's Lane will be closed for the day from 6 to 7 p.m. But so for the day, for all intents, next week, Thursday,
From 6 a.m. to 7 p.m.?
7 p.m.
Oh.
So, so we'll get notice on that now, which I appreciate.
Make a nice mess.
And it really does need some work on it. So they have detour routes, from David White's Lane, just to proceed west on 27 to North Main, continue south to Railroad Plaza, Powell Ave, and northbound from David White's, proceed north Powell Ave, proceed west to North Main Street, to 27, and proceed east to David White's Lane. So, just again, everybody be aware of that. There will be markings, I'm sure, and signed out, but a week from today, the 16th, from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., LIRR will be doing work at the David White's Lane grade crossing. And Bill, I actually want to commend your department, DPW, for cleaning up the Southampton Himalayas down at Cooper's Beach. If anybody's kept, if anybody's kept track of what that looked like with all the snow disposal from the season, it was again the Himalayas, a mountain range. So I commend the departments, DPW, Highway, Parks, that have done a lot of hard work in moving it, breaking it down, and slushing it to the side. Still a little work to be done. Still a little, all the dirt and stuff that was in that snow is now pushed over to the east side. But again, it looks much better, and it's gone, it's broken down, and of course Mother Nature will help with a lot of the rest. So again, I want to commend DPW and Highway Department for getting that done in a very expedient manner. With that, I have no other comments from the board. I'll open up to the second public comment. If anybody in the audience has anything to say? Don't everybody stand up at once? Okay. With that, a motion to go into executive session, which we have done this evening, so then I'm going to motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Second?
Favor?
Aye.